Okay, so what this brings us to is resistance profiles. What is a resistance profile? Anybody know? Let's call it strength profile. Let's start with strength profiles. So what's a strength profile? It's my body's ability to generate strength, right? Every exercise has what's called a strength profile, effectively acknowledging that at every point along its range of motion, the muscle has a different ability to generate force. So just because I'm performing a bicep curl doesn't mean that, let's say I'm using my heavy 5-pound dumbbell here. At every point in this exercise, is it going to be a challenge to that muscle? Is it going to be an equal challenge to that muscle?
No.
Everybody's looking at me. Tell me. It won't. So it's very important to acknowledge that every single muscle in your body has a varying ability to generate force, which means it actually should be subjected to a different amount of load at every point. Or it can be subjected to a different amount of load at every point relative to its ability to contract. Does that make sense? So we've all seen this before. So that's just a typical bell curve. Short, middle, long. So this is the most common one you're going to see. This is not true for every body part, but this is the most common you're going to see. And for the simplicity of today, I'm going to draw this. When a muscle is shortened, this is a fact. When a muscle is shortened, it's always going to be weaker. When a muscle is fully shortened, it's always going to be weaker. Middle of the range is often stronger, not always. And length in the part of the range is always, not always, most often weaker than the mid-range. This is going to get confusing, I know. But you can understand, all I'm trying to show you is there's a varying ability to generate force. So what I can do in the middle of the range, I can't do in the shortened range. So why does that matter? If I pick a weight, so if I have a trainer, or if I'm a type of trainer who says, well, you got to train the short end of the muscle, or conversely, you got to train the lengthened end of that range, and I pick a weight, best example visually to see is a one-arm dumbbell row, or a squat. Squat's actually perfect. We'll stick with squat. So if Carlin picks a squat where she can do 200 pounds at the bottom of the rep comfortably with good form, how challenging is it at the top? Is it challenging? We just said it's so much harder for her at the bottom. And the closer her knees and her hips get to being stacked, it's proportionally less and less and less and less effort, right? Less work. It's not equally challenging. It's extremely difficult at the bottom, extremely easy at the top. So if Carlin's only doing 200-pound squats, and that's her primary exercise for building her quads, is that a good quad exercise or a bad quad exercise? It's not bad. It's just limited. It's just limited. It's only going to challenge the muscle, maximally challenge the muscle at one small percentage of that range, right? Wouldn't it be ideal, efficient for sure, wouldn't it be ideal if every inch of that range of motion perfectly matched what her body was able to do? Like, so there was no wasted inches, no wasted reps, no wasted time. Imagine I had an exercise where let's build this scenario. Let's say I do 8 repetitions. Let's say I do 6. And the first rep, I'm able to give 100% effort through every inch of that rep. And I could barely do it. And the second, would I be able to do another one? No, I wouldn't. It'd be done. But imagine in the ideal scenario where I did 1 rep perfectly. Let's stick with that. I don't want to confuse you guys. There's some terms, Mike? There's some terms I don't want to introduce because it would open a rabbit hole. That would be the ideal scenario, right? Is we do 1 rep that perfectly challenges what you can do at every inch. Most people are going to go, oh, well, that's a 1 rep max. It's not. Because if Carlin did a 1 rep max where she was controlled at the bottom of the rep, we just showed that as she got closer to the top, there wouldn't be a challenge, right? So the ideal scenario is you got to find exercises, or you got to find a way to challenge the variable ability of your muscle to contract. So you got to challenge the muscle appropriately at every inch. I started to lose you guys yet? Good. I'm going to keep it real simple. I'm going to go out there like 5 more minutes and we'll go play with some stuff. So it's so important to acknowledge. This is important. This is a sidebar too that's important to acknowledge. Let's say that a muscle fiber, this is what happens when a muscle fiber contracts. That's a lengthened muscle fiber, lengthened sarcomere. That's like halfway shortened and that's fully shortened. It's actually been shown now in science that you can hypertrophy a muscle here, 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 and every variable point along that range. So if I'm only training in this lengthened range, or only challenging that lengthened range, I'm only going to hypertrophy that part of the muscle. And those other parts are going to actually be substantially thinner filaments, thereby predisposing you to likelihood of injury. Like if I got one part of a rope that's really, really thick, and I get another part that's really, really thin, what's going to happen? Injuries, right? It starts to break. So it's really important to acknowledge that the ideal circumstance for hypertrophy, for building a muscle, is to train it to its maximum capability at every part of the range. Stands to reason, right? Makes sense? Good. And that's why the stuff you have out there is a cool opportunity. You guys know, if you follow me online, I've got it at my gym. I'm a huge advocate for it, because it's the missing link for a lot of people, right? People are so attached to free weights, to barbells, dumbbells, and they think that's the best, because that's what Arnold Schwarzenegger did, that's what Tom Platz did. Shit's changed in 40 years. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with squats, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with dumbbells, but you gotta see limitations. You gotta see limitations. If you're trying to hypertrophy a muscle, it has to be the weakest link in the chain. How many of you in here can squat to where your quads fatigue in a squat before anything else? I bet there's fucking 2. Tops, right? You're one of them. Like probably literally 2. Everybody else is like, oh, something else hurts or I'm gassed, right? In order for your quads to be the weakest link in the chain, you gotta have a really strong lower back. You gotta have really good lung capacity, right? You gotta have a really strong core. All these things, all these factors need to come together for that to be a really good exercise for you. And it needs to be an unconscious skill. What does that mean? It means I need to have, squatting's a skill. Squatting's a very neurologically complex skill. If you haven't mastered the skill of squatting, what are you gonna be thinking about when you're doing a squat? You're thinking about squatting. You're not gonna think about your quads. If you're not thinking about how hard can I bury these quads, you don't stand a chance of building them, right? So maybe there's a better opportunity in other exercises that are less neurologically complex to challenge that particular muscle. Are you with me? And that's why when I say things have changed in 40 years, it's interesting to open your mind and open your paradigm to realize that, hey, machines are not inferior to free weights. Does anybody think that? Seriously, I won't hate you. I won't call you out. I won't make fun of you. But seriously, I'd like to have a conversation. I'm a pretty open guy. Anybody want to have that conversation? Because we all heard it, and it's okay. It doesn't make you a bad person to think free weight squats are a great exercise, because they are a great exercise if you're great at them. But how about that person who maybe like gets in a squat that's going like this? Is that a good quad exercise for them? It's fucking terrible. How about the person who's got really long femurs and they go into a squat and it kind of looks like this? Is that a good exercise for them? It's terrible, right? So unless a squat fits your body type, you've acquired that skill and you've mastered that skill, what's the likelihood of being a good quad builder for you? 0. So finding exercises, utilizing the resources at your disposal to get the best and most challenging workout for that muscle. Make sense?